And I am back with your AEW Dynamite review for September 23rd, 2020. And before we even get into it, I say it was a pretty average episode. They've done better. Last week was way better than this week, but that was probably due to it being taped, because you can edit and get rid of stuff that didn't really pan out as you would have liked. But this was live, and they were dealt a COVID hand because one of the guys, Lance, who was scheduled for a match, couldn't do it because he came down with COVID. So they had to scramble for a replacement. They had a title match that they could book Mox in. So instead of the 6-man, we got a title match, a world title match at the end, which was pretty good based on the reactions of the folks online. So they might have got lucky there. I would give it a B. Not the best, but it wasn't too bad. It was an okay episode. It starts off with Kip. He opens it up with a mic in hand, and he said, "It's time for the in-ring debut of the most handsome man ever." And he said, it's not just his best man, but he is the best man. And of course, he was talking about Miro. And after he made his entrance, as the intros were going on, Janela said that it's a mistake to marry Ford. He would know because he used to be with her. But he said they're there to win, him and Sonny Kiss, and on the express to victory. And that led us into the tag match. This was another unplanned match due to the change in the card. So it was sloppy at points, but we'll get there. Kip Sabian and Miro, the best man, versus Sonny Kiss and Joey Janela, who've been on a tear on Dark. They've been on a winning streak, but that was about to come to an end here. Kiss and Kip started the match with lockups, and Sonny demonstrated his athleticism using his dance background and gymnastic ability to mix with speed to get around. He's built heavier than Sonny, so he had to use his speed to get around this guy. Kip later tagged in Miro, but he immediately tagged back in because he didn't want to get the crowd what they wanted, and they chanted, "We want Miro." As a result, later Kiss and Janela traded tags to deliver some double team moves to Kip. Kiss delivered a standing moonsault, and that got a 2 count. Sabian then tags in Miro, and he just manhandles Janela, and he tagged Kip back in immediately afterwards. Kip then gets back to work on Kiss as he whips him into the corner. Miro tagged back in, and he tossed Kiss like he was nothing. And he then stood over Kiss and then struck him in the face after he got up. He showed off his power some more after he tagged Kip back in, just to rub more salt in the wound. Miro later continued his dominance over Kiss, and later Kiss cradles Kip for a 2 count. Kiss then gets the Janela hot tag, and he attempts to attack Miro, but he low bridges him outside. But Miro started to limp immediately after he got up, and this threw some people for a loop because they thought he was really injured. But this was just to lull both Kiss and Janela into a false sense of security. Later, Miro takes out Kiss with the camel clutch for the win. The match was a bit sloppy in parts, but it got the job done. It demonstrated Miro's abilities, and it showed him to be a beast, which they wanted. And the match wasn't planned to go on that night, so I'll give it a pass there because they probably didn't get to work out what they wanted it to be, so they winged it, and it wasn't that bad when you think about it that way, but still it was a bit sloppy, but it did its job. I give it a 2.5. Not quite TV ready, but it's what they had, and it served its purpose. Immediately after, Eddie Kingston comes out. He proclaimed to the world that it was him and Moxley for the title. He says 18 years he deserved this shot. Him and Mox used to be cut from the same cloth, but Kingston stayed with the fighters. Eddie says, "Where are you, sports entertainer? Where are you, Mox?" Mox came out through the crowd. No, he stood toe-to-toe, face-to-face with Kingston. Didn't do anything. They were both staring each other down. The refs came out not long after to separate the two. For what reason, I don't know, because they didn't try to go at each other. That was being saved for later. So I think it was just to send a message. Both tried to one-up each other, but neither one budged. And that set the stage for later. After the break, Kenny came out to the commentary table during Paige's match yet again, which was up next. And if I were Paige, this probably would have annoyed me because the last time he was out there, he didn't bother to help him. And he just got up casually and walked away to the back. What kind of friend does that? Evil Uno versus Adam Page. This was Evil Uno's first singles match. And he looked good. Both looked good. Per usual, both locked it up to start. Then Uno gets a tackle off on Page. Page then springs up and boots Uno. Later, he gets a snap suplex off for a 1 count. Page then deadlifts Uno for a bridge pin and gets a 2. Uno then gets a plancha from the apron to Page after a clothesline on the ring apron. Dark Order then proceeded to huddle around Page on the outside at the entrance ramp, but Uno whisked them away. He wanted to do this by himself. He didn't want his buddies getting involved. And they did. They left. After that, Uno delivered a pump kick to Page, then springs up top and gets a senton off for a 2 count. Page went for another shooting star, but Uno gets the knees up and delivers a cradle for a 2 count. Not long after this, Page delivers his buckshot lariat for the win, and someone is going to be upset. And that someone is Mr. Brody, whom had a match himself later. And we'll probably see some fallout from this on the next BTE episode next week. After this, Tony Schiavone interviewed the Buck. He knocked on their door, and when they finally came out, he flinched a bit. And this is a callback to last week when Marvez tried to interview the Bucks. He knocked on their door, and as soon as they opened it, they super kicked him. And Tony didn't want any of that, so he flinched, but it was for nothing. The Bucks didn't do anything. They just walked out. Matt says he feels terrible about kicking the poser ref. He says the Bucks have lost a lot, and they've lost title opportunities and relationships. He says either way, they will do better. Tony says FTR is the reason. How do you repair all this? Matt later asked for Tony's phone. He gave it to him reluctantly, and Matt smashed his phone, gave it back to him, and then he said he was sorry, pulled out some money, and tossed it at him. And then he walked back into his locker room. And Tony looked a bit disappointed, but he got money to get a new phone, so what? It wasn't all bad. He probably needed another one anyway. Next up, we had the TNT Championship match. Orange Cassidy versus Mr. Brody Lee. Orange Cassidy started with his shtick, his kicks, But Brody stomps his feet and uppercuts him immediately after. He wasn't falling for any of those shenanigans. Orange Cassidy attempted to tope, but the minions caught him, held him in place, and this allowed Brody to dive himself onto Cassidy and everyone else, even the minions. Brody distracted the ref as the goons stomped him down on the outside. Brody then tosses Orange Cassidy back outside the ring, and this allowed the Dark Order to beat him down again. But did the ref see it? We couldn't really tell because the camera was focused on the outside to the beatdown. So if he was looking, we couldn't tell. So we got to take their word. Later, Brody hits his boss man slam on Orange Cassidy. He got a 2 count. As we went into the picture-in-picture commercial break. Back from that break, Orange Cassidy goes for 2 topes on Brody back-to-back. They sent him wobbling for a bit. He then dodged some creeper action outside the ring, and he took them out using their own devious actions against him. Orange Cassidy later hits his diving DDT on Brody as he was dazed afterwards. Orange Cassidy also hit a running PK twice after this, and later hits an air raid crash on Brody and got a 2 count. Silver attempted to interrupt, but Orange punched him, and then Brody seized the opportunity and discus lariats Orange Cassidy for the win. Done in by the goons. Post-match, the whole arena went dark, and Cody's music was playing. And it turns out it was Cody. He made his return after almost a month away. His last appearance was on the Saturday night edition of Dynamite, August 22nd. And he was back with dyed hair, black hair. And he was wearing all black. A black suit, black hair, everything. This could mean, I think this means that he's going to be he's going to be more rough. Maybe in between as a bad guy and a good guy. I can see him going full bad guy eventually. No one goes all black and stays good. After he made his grand return entrance, he takes on the whole lot of Dark Order. He grabs Five's legs and wraps him around the ring post and later drags him into the middle of the ring and hits a figure 4 on Angel. Brody, as all this was going on, Brody skedaddled. He left like a coward. He didn't want any of that smoke. And there was tons of smoke with that entrance. So, double entendre. After that, Dasha attempted to interview Brody, but Anna Jay grabs the mic and ushers her out of the way. Brody says sooner or later, he's going to cut Cody down. He's going to take that dog collar, which he had in his hand, and wrap it around his neck. He'll have nowhere to run and nowhere to hide. He gave Cody a week to answer to him. So next week, I presume Cody will let us know what he thinks of Brody after that brutal beating he took a month ago. So he probably has a lot to say. And a lot of people are interested because it's been so long since he was there. And he needed a break anyway after all those title defenses every week. So it was a good way to write him off. And now he is fully recouped and ready to go. Next segment, we had Matt Hardy and Private Party making their entrance. Last week he says someone attacked him from behind. He's been replaying the events over and over in his head. He said he had a heated convo with MJF and Brody about the TNT title also. Whoever did it was wearing a face covering or had a bat. He names Jericho as his prime suspect. He said Jericho will always be known as a jerk. And of course, out comes Jericho with his theme playing. Of course, the crowd got involved because they love to sing along. Jericho says, "Happy birthday, Matt. Who gives a shite?" The inner circle is now whole again. And Jericho denies that bat shot. It wasn't him. And I also got to mention that Guevara made his return here also. And then what I didn't think would happen, the Private Party got some mic time. They got Matt to calm down, and Cassidy eventually challenged Jericho to a singles match next week. And it would be his first singles match, Cassidy's. Isaiah Cassidy. Should be interesting. This will be Jericho getting the limelight on another young guy, as he likes to do. He's in the business of putting others over and making new names. So this is Cassidy's chance to shine. We'll see what he does next week. After that, we had an FTR, the Tag Team Champions, and Tully Blanchard interviewed by Tony Schiavone. Tully says next week, the first AEW Tag Team Champions will get a brush with greatness. They'll get 20 minutes. If they don't win, they get a check in the winner's column. FTR then insults the Best Friends, and they came out later to challenge FTR to a match they set up in ring. But Cass says it's obvious they aren't 100%. So they're banged up. Maybe in a few weeks they can get a title shot. And pretty much this is their way of cowardly backing out of this match, because they weren't expecting them to come out and actually be down to challenge them on the spot. They weren't going to have it, so they weaseled their way out of it. After that, the Best Friends snuck in their hug as the camera pulled away, and Excalibur ushered that catchphrase that we all like. The segment was over. The Best Friends are now intertwined with FTR in a feud, pretty much, going forward. They remain one of the top tag teams, and that's good for them. Now we're at another title match, a women's tag team match. It featured NWA Women's Champ Thunder Rosa and Hikaru Shida, the AEW Women's Champ. Two champions up against Ivelisse and Diamante, and this was a good match. The crowd didn't help it much though. Both Rosa and Shida showed off their titles to the hard cam, and both got decked in the back by Diamante and Ivelisse. Shida then gets dumped on her head by Ivelisse, and she tags out as Diamante covers for a 2 count. The match then spills outside the ring as Rosa and Shida delivered a boot to Diamante as she was draped over the ring apron. In the ring, Shida scoops Diamante and slams Rosa on top of her for a 2 count. Rosa then delivers 2 arm drags to Diamante and delivers a senton to her for another 2. And that looked good. She has smooth transitions. Doesn't have to second guess. Later, Ivelisse tags in and delivers a double team to Rosa. And then we went to break. And back from that break, Ivelisse and Diamante got some life in them as they took down both Rosa and Shida for a 2 count. And both delivered an assisted standing sliced bread on Shida, and that got a 2 count. But it was due to Rosa breaking the 2 count. So it could have been a 3. Later, Diamante goes for a code red, but Rosa counters and delivers a DVD, a Death Valley Driver. Then Shida follows that up with a Falcon Arrow. And later, not long after that, she hits her with a running knee for the win. The champs win as they should, and the match was good. And I give it a 3.5. Everyone did well and came out looking good, even the losers. And that's how you want to be. Everyone booked strong. I don't know what's next for Shida, though, because she needs more opponents. She needs some strong opponents. So they got to start lining them up. Otherwise, the momentum from this is going to go down. But the match was good, so that's all that mattered. Immediately after this, we had Dasha interviewing Jericho. He cut down Isaiah Cassidy a bit. He says he'll be facing the bigger star. He said the only shots Cassidy will feel is coming from his left and his right hand. MJF then comes into the frame, and he basically agrees with everything Jericho says. The two then go at it back and forth verbally, and it's good stuff because both know how to talk and insult and be funny at the same time. And this is obviously, I think this is a seed planted for a match between the two down the line. Not immediately, but in the future. Or it could be MJF was talking about being in a group a few episodes back. So maybe he might get Jericho involved in something, even though he's in the inner circle. He already has a group, so I don't see that panning out, but we'll see. But I think it's just going to be a match between the two later. And maybe that turns Jericho into a good guy. We'll see. And that led into the main event, the AEW World Championship match. We had Eddie Kingston versus the champ, Jon Moxley. And this was a hard-hitting, stiff affair. Some of these shots were dead on. This was real. And you can tell. These two worked with each other in the past on the indie circuit before TV. So they had chemistry already. Both locked it up as Kingston takes Mox down, but both get back to their feet relatively quick. Both trade intense chops. These chops this is where the realness came in. They were laying in these chops. You can hear them echo throughout that arena. Mox then lays into Kingston. He clotheslines Mox. Eddie then topes Mox outside the ring, and Mox starts laughing a bit as he's on the ground. And Eddie beats Mox down a bit after. Both continue to battle it out on the outside during a commercial break. Back from the break, Mox later topes Kingston and follows it up with a suplex. They then make it to the ring, and Mox pile drives Kingston, but Kingston reached the ropes, so he broke the pin. Mox later gets a sleeper on Eddie, but he transitions to a bulldog choke on Eddie, and Mox defeated Kingston due to Eddie passing out. So he didn't tap, he just took it and went to sleep, and that protects him in defeat. He didn't tap to look weak, he just took it like a man. And that's all his character is about. Mox retained the title, and I give the match a 3, barely a 3.5, because I like the hard-hitting nature, and both had some good chemistry, so it all worked out. And AEW tied up a loose end because he never went over the top ropes at the Royale at All Out. So that's over and done with. Post-match, the Lucha Brothers attacked Mox with double super kicks. Darby then comes out to help, but later Ricky Starks turns him inside out with a spear. Will Hobbs also made his appearance. He took him out a little bit before he got super kicked by the Lucha Bros. And in the end, Kingston's family stood tall, and this could set up something going forward in the future. An intertwining story. Even though it wasn't the planned match, they made it make sense because we got a little taste of what that 6-man could have been if it happened with the interference at the end. So it all worked out. There you have it. That is the AEW Dynamite review for September 23rd, 2020. And I also have how the episode did in the ratings. The episode drew 835,000 viewers on TNT, and it topped the 696 that NXT got by 20%. AEW was number 9 on the night in the 18 to 49 demo. And there you have it, the ratings for the episode. And I'll be back with another next week. I'll catch you then.